do you have any, do you hold any degree? Education, training, and background qualifies you to perform the duties that you just described as Director of Accident Reconstruction at ARCA?
In terms of my educational background, I received a Bachelor of Science in Engineering from James Madison University back in 2012, along with a minor in mathematics. Some of my coursework while at James Madison included courses in physics, statics, dynamics, kinematics, material science, and your typical engineering sciences. Subsequent to my undergraduate degree, I then went on to the University of Delaware to pursue my PhD in electrical and computer engineering with a concentration in electromagnetics and photonics.
I don't think they're qualified to testify to. I don't think either of them is qualified to testify to that. That's more of an area of forensic pathology.
What do you say to that, Mr. Jackson?
Number 4 is, their opinion is, there is currently insufficient evidence to determine the cause of Mr. O'Keefe's skull brain injuries or the circumstances surrounding the event. That is well within the scope of their expertise, obviously. I don't think I have to beat this dead horse. They are highly, highly qualified.
As a biomechanical engineer, I kind of take the reverse direction. We look at, here's the injury, here's what's diagnosed. Well, how did that injury occur? You know, how much force do you have to apply to cause that fracture? How did the bone have to be loaded? How did it bend to actually cause a specific type of fracture? So we really kind of approach the injury from two different directions.
Understood. And given that scientific approach, oftentimes you can come to conclusions and opinions, scientific conclusions and opinions about the causation of an injury, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah, and I mean, ultimately, that's what biomechanical engineering is how does an injury occur? Why did it occur? And in what type of setting did the injury actually occur? What type of loading and what type of kinematics do you need to have this injury actually occur?
Can you tell the court a brief synopsis on the discipline of human factors? What part does that play in what you do for a living?
Well, human factors is a large part of it as well. I mean, from a biomechanical standpoint, we look at the body, we have to know anatomy, we have to know the makeup of the body, and then human factors plays a part of it as well, as how individuals respond or what their response is to different types of environments or reactions. It really all plays into looking at a specific event. How did someone react? How did their body move? How was the body loaded? There's all different types of factors that you have to apply. The human factors, kinematics, kinetics, biomechanical, musculoskeletal interactions. It's all these different factors that are really involved in performing an analysis to ultimately look at injury causation.
Doctor, as the Director of Biomechanics and Human Factors at ARCA, what education, training, and background qualifies you to perform those duties?
Well, I got my Bachelor's of Science in Mechanical Engineering with a minor in Biomedical Engineering from Carnegie Mellon University in 1995. I then went on to get my Master's in Bioengineering and Biomechanics from the University of Pittsburgh in 2002. And then I got my PhD or my doctorate in bioengineering and biomechanics from the University of Pittsburgh in 2004.
I don't think they're qualified to testify to. I don't think either of them is qualified to testify to that. That's more of an area of forensic pathology.
What do you say to that, Mr. Jackson?
Number 4 is, their opinion is, there is currently insufficient evidence to determine the cause of Mr. O'Keefe's skull brain injuries or the circumstances surrounding the event. That is well within the scope of their expertise, obviously. I don't think I have to beat this dead horse. They are highly, highly qualified. Trying to reconstruct what happened, what the causal effects were of that accident, and what the results were, the resultant damage or injuries were.
Absolutely.
What about human factors? What does that discipline entail? What is human factors?
Well, to give you an example of that, so I do a lot of nighttime visibility work where, for instance, let's say a pedestrian's coming out onto the roadway at night. Maybe it's not a lit roadway and you're relying on your vehicle headlights to illuminate that pedestrian. So it's determining when would a driver recognize that individual on the roadway based upon the headlights, if there is any artificial lighting, their clothing, and then we look at how do drivers respond based upon that scenario that they're presented with. So we know that response times are different depending on the hazard that's presented to them. So if it's a pedestrian coming to the roadway, it's a vehicle stopping in front of you. So that's the application of human factors.
And that might include everything from passenger vehicles, commercial vehicles, bicycle issues, motorcycle issues, things of that nature.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Should I show my report for that, or should you want me to just kind of go off
Are you
the?
guys going to look at your report? Is that what?
Yes.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can we continue?
If you could, please.
Okay.
What, if any, conclusions did you come to through the course of your investigation?
So on Saturday, January 29th, 2022, at approximately 12:45.
So you can look at your report, but you can't read your report.
I
So,
read my conclusions based on what they asked me to do. Okay.
yeah. So I can't hear you.
Sorry.
Okay. So just take your time, read your report, and then answer Mr. Lally's question. And if you need to look at your report, we'll see about that again.
All right.
Ask the question, Mr. Lally.
Based on the totality of your investigation, what, if any, conclusions did you come to with regard to how this collision occurred?
So this collision occurred on Saturday, January 29th, 2022, at approximately 12:45 hours. A 2021 Lexus LX570 was traveling southbound on Fairview Road, in Area 34 Fairview Road.
Objection on it.
Yeah.
It appears that.
So,
Sorry, I'm trying to
so
oppose it.
you know what? I don't, Mr. Lally, break this down. Ask
Yes, please.
simple questions so that the witness can answer your questions. We don't need a narrative.
From your investigation, what, if any, conclusions did you come to as to where this collision occurred?
So, all right. So on the night of Saturday, January 2022, at approximately 12:45 hours, a 2021 Lexus LX570.
Could you slow down, sir?
So yes.
So forget all that part,
Okay.
Trooper.
All
Just
right.
answer the question.
Okay.
Where did it occur?
It occurred in the Area 34 Fairview Road.
And who, if anyone, were the participants in this collision sequence?
The operator appeared to be Karen Reed, and the pedestrian was John O'Keefe.
And where was the vehicle located in reference to the residents of 34 Fairview Road?
It was located along the southbound travel lane and to the left side of the house as you look at it from the front.
And as far as the vehicle, what, if any, directionality did it head in, and what, if any, interaction did it have with Mr. O'Keefe?
So the vehicle was traveling in reverse along the southbound travel lane, traveling north.
And how fast was the vehicle traveling and over what distance?
The vehicle traveled up to 24 miles per hour and approximately 62 feet.
And at the time that the vehicle was traveling approximately 24 miles per hour over approximately 62 feet, what, if anything, occurred then?
The right rear of the Lexus struck the pedestrian John O'Keefe.
And post-collision, what, if anything, occurred with regard to Mr. O'Keefe?
Mr. O'Keefe was projected forward and to the left along the front yard of 34 Fairview Road.
And post-collision with Mr. O'Keefe, what, if anything, did the defendant's vehicle do?
The Lexus continued traveling in reverse before they left the area.
Now, as far as the vehicle itself, from your inspection, what, if any, role did any mechanical aspects of the vehicle play in this collision?
There were no mechanical defects.
And as far as your analysis of the roadway and other factors related to that, what, if any, role did they play in this collision sequence?
There were no roadway or environmental factors that contributed to this collision.
Now, sir, with respect to your investigation, what, if any, opinions did you draw based on your training and experience in regard to this collision and how it occurred?
May I look at my report real quick? Just make sure.
Yes.
Thank you. All right. So throughout my investigation, this appeared to be a single car collision involving a pedestrian. The vehicle was traveling at a higher acceleration when, sorry. The vehicle accelerated at a high rate of speed before she struck the pedestrian John O'Keefe on the roadway and subsequently left him at the scene.
And with respect to the backup safety system that you observed in this vehicle and made use of in the course of your visibility analysis, what, if any, role is it your opinion that played in how this crash occurred?
Based on the visibility analysis. So,
Thank you, sir. I have no further questions.
Okay, cross-examination?
Thank you, Your Honor. Sir, do you hold any degrees in the scientific discipline of mathematics?
I do not.
Do you hold any degrees in the scientific discipline of physics?
I do not.
Hold any degrees in the scientific discipline of biomechanics?
No.
How about in engineering?
No.
How about in kinematics?
Correct?
That is correct.
Now, to be fair, that's based on the evidence that you were provided, correct?
Correct.
So what did Mr. Klein do?
So as a part of the engagement with the entity that ultimately retained us in this, due to the confidentiality of it, only those who had access to the material to the file were allowed to review it and discuss it. And essentially, Scott Klein served as kind of another reconstruction expert to essentially bounce ideas off of and help with the review.
So for lack of a better term, sort of provided, let's say, sort of technical review of your work and Dr. Rentschler's work, is that correct?
I would say assist us with the analysis, yes.
Now, obviously, your firm and your agency issued a report in relation to what you did, correct?
That's correct.
And you've obviously had a time to review that report as far as what's contained in there factually, as well as conclusions and opinions, things of that nature.
Yes.
So is it your testimony that anything that has to do with anything factually, conclusions, opinions, or otherwise, in relation to the motor vehicle damage, those are your opinions, those are your conclusions, correct?
I would say that's fair, yes.
And again, based on the evidence that you will provide, correct?
Correct.
And so the facts or evidence or conclusions or opinions related to injuries to Mr. O'Keefe, that was Dr. or Mr. Rentschler's area, is that fair to say?
Dr. Rentschler, yes.
And again, that was based on the evidence or whatever he was providing, correct?
Correct.
Which would be the same materials that you had testified that you had reviewed, correct?
Correct.
I have nothing further.
Anything further, Mr. Jackson? All right, so, Doctor, I just have one question for you. What specifically were you asked to do?
I'm sorry, Your Honor, I didn't hear the court's.
What specifically were you asked to do?
So the agency that retained us gave us a selected quantity of file material related to this case, and essentially left it as an open-ended question. Ultimately, was the evidence consistent with a pedestrian interaction between Mr. John O'Keefe and the Lexus?
Okay, you said selected quantity of information. Who selected that information?
As far as I'm concerned, it would be the Department of Justice and the FBI.
You were asked, does that remind you that you were asked by a grand jury if you could calculate how far a body would move having been struck by a vehicle?
Yes.
And you indicated, quote, yeah, there's certain calculations we can do with that, but figure out if the car backed up, hit somebody, and then they go a certain amount of distance, and it's based on miles per hour, the speed of the vehicle, the striking vehicle, and stuff. Remember saying that?
Yes.
What did you mean by stuff?
I don't know.
You said that the calculations would be based on miles per hour and stuff. Did you ever do any stuff to test that? The grand jury's question.
No, we cannot calculate anything from this collision.
Say that one more time.
We cannot calculate anything from this collision.
Who's we?
I'm sorry, me. The role me.
Well, you know John O'Keefe's weight, right?
What's that?
You know John O'Keefe's weight, 217 pounds, right?
Yes.
Did you know that?
I don't know his weight, no.
You know the weight of the vehicle?
Yes.
What's the weight of the vehicle, gross weight?
What's the gross weight?
Yeah.
I think it's approximately 7,300 pounds.
Okay. Were you able to calculate the mass of the vehicle?
I did not calculate the mass of the vehicle.
Well, you told the grand jury you were planning on doing that kind of stuff to calculate how far a person would travel being struck at that speed with a car of that weight. You didn't do those calculations?
No, because the calculations would vastly underestimate the speed of the vehicle.
You testified, again, my report isn't done yet. I'm going to look into it. I'm looking into all that stuff, end quote, correct?
Yes.
There's that word again. It's been more than 2 years since that statement at the grand jury. Is your report finished?
Yes, it is.
Did you engage in any of those calculations?
I looked into it. This type of collision I would not be able to use the formulas for this type of collision.
Well, let's talk about those formulas. How would you calculate how far a body at rest would travel after being struck by an object in motion? How would you calculate that?
In pedestrian collisions, I use a Searle formula, Searle throw formula.
A what formula?
Searle.
What does that mean?
It's a type of formula that would use for a calculation of post-impact
So
or speeds for pedestrians.
That includes certain principles of physics to calculate that, right?
What do you mean?
I'm sorry?
What do you mean by certain forms of physics?
There would be physics calculations that would be required to figure out how far a body at rest would move having been struck by an object in motion. That's a basic principle.
Yeah, I guess you could say though.
All right. Can you describe for the jurors exactly what calculations you would need to employ to determine how far a body at rest would travel having been struck by an object in motion?
So in this scenario, in this collision, it's more of a side swipe. So he did not he did not get enough speed of the vehicle post impact with the vehicle to be able calculations. His center of mass was offset from the vehicle, so we would vastly underestimate his speed. So that's why I did not do a formula. If he was more in line with behind the vehicle, he would have been projected forward, and using that projection forward, he would have been able to get more closer to the actual speed of the vehicle during that post-impact travels.
Well, that presumes a couple of things, Paul. That presumes that he was quote unquote sideswiped, right?
Presumed?
Presumed by you. You didn't see how he was hit, did you?
Based on the evidence, it appeared to be a side swipe.
That's your opinion.
That's just reading the evidence.
You're saying that the principles of physics as we know them today in modern mathematics is thwarted by a sideswipe?
Objection.
Is that what you're saying?
The calculations that are out there, you can get a speed, it would just underestimate the speed.
You would have to know what the initial momentum of the object is that's in motion, correct?
Of what object?
The truck, Paul.
I would have to know that speed.
Yeah, you'd have to know what the initial momentum is, not speed, momentum. There's a difference,
Okay.
right? Would you agree with that?
No.
And so, and again, Doctor, what your opinions or ultimate conclusions are, whether they be yours or Dr. Wolf's or a combination of the two, it's all limited based on the information and the evidence that you received, correct?
It certainly is based on the information that we reviewed and listed in our report. Yes, sir.
Now, as far as sort of a mandate or from the agency that hired you, were you asked to answer a specific question, or were you asked to just do an analysis based on what we sent you, or how was that put to you as far as what you were doing?
There was a specific request that we were asked to perform and to evaluate in this case.
And specifically what I'm asking, sir, is there's an analysis in there of whether or not the injuries to the back of Mr. O'Keefe's head could have been caused from contact with the vehicle, correct?
That is part of my analysis and opinions, yes, sir.
And were you specifically asked to address or answer that question by the agency that hired you?
That was one of the questions I was specifically asked, yes, sir.
I have nothing further.
Anything further, Mr. Jackson?
Your Honor, thank you.
All right, so, Doctor, I have a couple of questions for you, sir. So regarding the specific request, what were you tasked to do specifically?
So specifically overall, I was tasked from the biomechanical standpoint to determine or see if it's possible to determine how the injuries in this case occurred. And part of that was determine whether the injuries, the head injury and the arm injuries resulted from contact with the Lexus in this case.
Okay. And regarding all of your prior testimony, a good deal of it seems to be in depositions. Any of those in Massachusetts?
There's a couple, I believe. I've testified at trial in Massachusetts,
Okay.
Middlesex Superior Court.
Do you know where that might be? I do want to look at that.
I can find it for you, maybe a couple of months ago.
Was it in a criminal case or a civil case?
Oh, it was in civil case. I
Okay.
think, let's see here, yeah, so let's see, there was one November 14th, 15th, 2023, Middlesex Superior Court. That was probably the most recent one.
Hey, what number is that on there, if I want to go
that
back
will-
and look at it?
That is number 310.
Thank you. Is there another Massachusetts case?
Oh, I'm sure there are, because I know there's some from earlier in my career. Let me see. See if I can find them for you real quickly here. I'm gonna read this. So there's Connecticut. Ellsworth, Louisiana. Oh, there's 68. I'm gonna butcher it. Worcester.
Worcester. Is that a civil or criminal case, Doctor?
That is a civil case as well.
Okay. What year was that?
Oh, that one was 2012.
Okay. Any others that you think of or you see?
There may have been a couple others. I don't recall off the top.
All right, I'll go through it more closely. I appreciate you saving me some time.
Absolutely.
All right, any questions based on my questions?
No, thank you, Your Honor.
No.
All right, you are all set, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Honor.
That's probably a good 30 feet from the pedestrian's final rest, correct?
Yeah, that's about right.
That is the furthermost in this diagram, the furthermost piece of debris on the diagram, correct?
Correct.
So now, your testimony changed that this, in fact, is the area of impact.
No,
Why not?
because it's just a piece of debris. I'm talking about the path. You follow the path of debris field. Debris can move and change.
The debris doesn't fly backward, does it?
I'm saying you pointed to like just the fire hydrant as the area impact where the debris, where that one piece of plastic was, saying that's the area impact is right next to the fire hydrant.
Are you asking me a question?
Yeah, that's what you said, right?
I'm asking you,
I'm making sure I'm understanding what you're saying so I can answer the right.
Ask the question again, Mr. Jackson.
in fact, you indicated on Friday that your analysis of the area of impact was predicated on, based on, the furthermost piece of debris from the pedestrian's body that you were aware of, which is right there. Red plastic B, correct?
I said well, I said you said earlier with the linear equation. I mean, it might have moved it over more, but it's the debris, the start of that debris, and where that is. I can't say that's definitely the point of area impact or the point of impact.
You can't.
I cannot say that is the point of impact right there. You just kind of follow the linear path because they have to follow in a direct path that way.
Okay, so now, that's exactly what you said under questioning by Mr. Lally, wasn't it?
Objection.
Sustained.
Didn't you say on Friday that you determined the area of impact for Mr. O'Keefe, the point of impact, was red plastic B because that was the furthermost piece of debris you were aware of from the final point of rest for Mr. O'Keefe's body? Isn't that what you said?
I don't believe that's my exact words.
Okay. Estimate 30 feet in here?
Can I estimate?
Can you point to a place in the courtroom that looks like it's 30 feet from you?
Objection.
No. Next question.
Does the court have a diagram of the diagram of distances?
In this courtroom? No.
You indicated just now, and then I'm finished with this. Thank you, Mr. Bates. You indicated just now, in answer to Mr. Lally's last couple of questions, that in your expert opinion, when the SUV struck the pedestrian, John O'Keefe, he was, quote, projected forward and to the left to the front yard to his final place of rest.
Yes.
So your expert testimony is that John O'Keefe was hit with the SUV and flew 30 feet.
Projected mean like I don't say he flew all the way there. He was projected in that way. He got pushed forward in that direction.
To you, the evidence that you have in front of you is that you get hit, fly 30 feet, land where he ended up in his final rest, right?
Objection.
Sustained. Ask it differently.
Based on your expert
Closer to
opinion,
the actual speed of the vehicle.
you believe that he was projected through the air to his final rest place.
That's not what I was saying.
Well, you said there's no evidence that he rolled.
And there's no evidence that he flew through the air either.
Exactly. Right? Exactly.
Objection.
Sustained.
You said on Friday that in your experience, how do you suppose that Mr. O'Keefe, in your opinion, held on to that glass cup that was found right next to him over the course of 30 feet being projected?
Objection.
I'll allow it. Do you have a theory on that?
I don't know. I mean, it just could have been with him the whole way. I don't know. I wasn't there, so I don't know how the glass stayed with his body and went with him to the final rest.
So it's just common sense. You have to believe that it was in his hand. He held on to it the entire time he was being projected 30 feet, right?
It's possibly, it could have been in his hand. It could have been tucked next to his clothing.
Did you say tucked in?
I mean, like, could have been next to his body. So when he projected, maybe the glass was with his body as it was also flying. So there's a number of reasons why the glass, because it also got projected with the body while he was holding it.
I thought you said on Friday, and you disagreed with me, that people drop things when they're hit.
Yes, body, not everything, it tends to fly off. I mean, some stuff flies off, some stuff will stay on.
I see.
It's not uncommon to find a piece of clothing and stuff, that you find at the scene.
Piece of clothing?
Like clothing, like shoes, like shoes and stuff like that to come off the body during a pedestrian crash.
Well, that's not what I asked.
I know, I'm just saying, you asked me, you said what I'm just responding to what you said. And trying to make sure you understand what I'm saying.
No, I don't, but I'll ask another question.
Depends, depends on where it is.
It was under his body.
Okay.
How do you account for that? He held onto a cell phone with one hand and held onto a cup with the other.
Objection.
Sustained. Ask it differently.
If the cell phone was found under his torso, under his body, what's your theory on how that cell phone ended up flying 30 feet with him?
It just did.
Just did. And somehow, as he landed, tucked that cell phone underneath his body so he landed on top of it.
It just did. That's the evidence at the scene. I didn't put the evidence there, so.
Well, you didn't.